I'd like to welcome everyone to the San Mateo County Harbor District Finance Committee meeting, November the 1st. So may we have a roll call of committee members, or should we just say that both the committee members are here? All right, both of our committee members,
Works for me.
Tom Matoush and Catherine Slater Carter are here, and some staff. So we're going to have, well, we had our introduction. So we're going to do a review of the budget, available funding projections, and market analysis for the retail center. So let's start with a review of the budget, and I believe that our Director of Administrative Services, Julie Van Hoff, will be presenting that for us.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Matoush. This is the 23-24 budget document. This was presented to the Harbor Commission in June and was approved at that time. So the budget document is made up of 4 distinct sections: an introductory section, which just tells a little bit about our goals as a district, and where San Mateo County Harbor District is, about our history, our priorities, what we want to work towards. Section 1 is the operating section of the budget, and that gives a summarization of the financials. It has comparisons, and so I'll go through that in more detail. And then the next section is the capital improvement program section. So the capital improvement program is across multi-years, and that is, presentation of that is a little bit different than the operating budget, but it flows in the impact of the decreases of our cash flow into the operating budget. And then policies and definitions is section 3, that we have a debt policy, we have a reserve policy, and gives a little bit of information on some of the acronyms that we use throughout the budget document. As you know, we again received a Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. This was our 3rd year. And we've sent in an application to hopefully get another award for this budget document that we're reviewing here. Executive summary is a high-level summary of what the budget is meant to do. And I don't know how much the Finance Committee wants to go into all this detail. Is this a good level amount of detail of where we're at now, or do you want to concentrate more on the numbers? Capital projects?
Between Commissioner Slater Carter and myself, the board has already presented this, and I believe that we're looking at the health of the district. If there's any changes that you see that are relevant to something, I know that we, for the public's awareness, we do update our budget periodically. We take advantage of our inflow or outflow, and we adjust accordingly. We change every year to reflect our position, to keep everything current so that the public's in the know. So I would say, pending approval by Commissioner Slater Carter, if there's changes or something that's particularly relevant, I think that we could do a pretty high level to scan on the numbers. What we're interested in, and the public is interested in, is the health of the district and our current state of affairs.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go to, in the budget document, there's 2 summary schedules. One is a summary of the operating budget, and the next is a 5-year projection, which incorporates what we believe our capital project expenditures to be. So,
That's perfect, because my concern is, we've been talking about acquiring this land. And I want to know how that will fit into our overall picture, because most of our long-term projects, which have been long-term for a long time, um, need to get done. And, for instance, Johnson Pier, which is going to be on the November 15, Coastal Commission hearing docket. Assuming, given the staff recommendations, that they will, approve it, added a lot of extra work to it. So I want to make sure that we can comfortably, get through the next few years on this. And if folks are interested, this document is on the internet, easily available for everyone.
thank you. So this is a high-level summary of the 23-24 final budget compared to the preliminary budget. And so we're looking at this 23-24 final budget column here. I did review where we were on the quarter, like what our quarterly statements are as of September 30th, to see how we're tracking against what we projected back in June. And so the operating revenues, we're tracking right on budget there. Same with non-operating revenues. I did receive a letter from the county telling us how much taxes that we would be receiving this year, and so that's really close to what they gave us as a final number. Salaries, wages, benefit, and expenditures, we're tracking under in this category, and that's for a couple reasons. There may be, at least $500,000 of savings potentially. We've had 2 openings since July 1st. We hired a couple people a couple months into the year. We have 2 people that have been on leave of absence for a considerable amount of time. And we also are still in the process of negotiating the OE3 contract. So we budgeted increases there that haven't come to fruition yet. So there should be some savings in that line item. The non-personnel expenditures, really hard to gauge right now. We're a little bit below, but there is a timing difference in when we get our bills. It could be 1, 2, maybe even 3 months after that month ends. So we haven't accumulated all that. And generally towards springtime, we seem to ramp up a lot of like our maintenance costs and other certain costs, and it gets busier in the district, and we just have more expenses. But right now, we're running a little bit below that, but I expect that to pick up and be on budget, yes.
Do we have adequate reserves for any emergencies that will be coming up this winter? Everything I've read says that we're kind of in the target area of a El Nino.
So I'll be going into the projections. There's another spreadsheet after we present the budget that goes into what amount of money we believe that we will have that is not spoken for. And to answer your question, we never know how big the damage might be. We certainly hope that it's not going to be more than we have available to us. We were successful in these past storms of getting some funding from FEMA. We do have insurance on our property, so that might be able to fund things that potentially get
The
damaged.
interesting things about the insurance claim that Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side just had is, and it's particularly relevant here, is the insurance, the insurance exempts damage by water.
Okay.
So when you're talking about a harbor district, hopefully we've got an exclusion to the exclusion. But, yeah, it's an interesting problem at Sam.
Yeah. And I'll check into that just to verify that we do have coverage for storm damage to our properties, but.
Especially water.
Yeah. Flood damage, yes, definitely.
Most expensive things would be the docks getting damaged in a big storm,
Right.
and those are covered. But it's the storm that does it, it's the wind, the rain, and the water raising up and crashing on our docks, but the water per se, or flooding out a sewer plant's much different than flooding out a harbor.
Yeah, but insurance companies will use any excuse they can not to pay.
So I'll get into this capital contributions and capital expenditures more when we look at the projections in more detail. If we do everything that we're expecting to do, this capital expenditure is going to increase because we're looking at purchasing the property. Okay, and so then the next section that I'll go through is 5-year forecast here.
Anybody that wishes to review this, which page are you referring to now? That's 46, is it?
Okay, so this budget document is put together in the beginning of June to be able to present it to the Harbor Commission for adoption in the middle of June at our board meeting. So this fiscal year 22-23 is not actual numbers, it's what we expect to end the year at as of June 30th. So there's a time difference there that we're doing some estimates and some projections to get to these numbers. With that said, this one-time biennial number of 745 is what we had budgeted, but the election department didn't send us our final bill till a couple days after we approved this budget. And so we have about $500,000 of savings that basically increases this total ending working capital number by that $500,000. We also had more property tax revenue than what we were projecting here. And so that gave us another about $500,000. And then we had additional savings in our salaries, benefits, and non-personnel expenditures. And so when I go through the projection, this 17,805,000 is going to be increased to 19 million something, which I can't remember right now. The minimum required reserves, we have a reserve policy for the district that requires us to put aside 25% of our expected expenditures for the year. So this year we have about $2.7 million that this is not really spendable money. This is for emergencies. It is also used as a cash flow mechanism. So when we collect our property taxes in December and April of every year, there's going to be lulls of lesser money coming in, June, July, August, summer months and stuff where we're needing to use money. Right now, we have plenty of cash, so we're not worrying so much about needing to use that for cash flow purposes because we have plenty of it currently. But so that kind of gives you the overview of the differences in what we presented in June versus now. And
Expect that extra $2 million in property tax revenues to continue then throughout the years?
that's a good question because what San Mateo does is they say, okay, well, we think we're going to give you $9.9 million this year. And that's what they're saying, they sent us a letter that they're going to give us $9.9 million. But there's things like supplemental taxes and some unitary taxes and things that would be very difficult to budget. And they don't give us that information because they don't know what it is.
And
So
it's
it
bad
could be.
it's bad to budget that money because it can go away.
Yeah, well, and right now, my understanding is like the housing market, not too many things are being sold. People are holding on to them, just because, the interest rates and, people aren't gonna sell their house and move into a new place. So that might impact supplemental
Right.
taxes, for example. Great, so let's see. Do you have any questions on the budget document per se? We will do a more formal presentation we can have a finance committee meeting in, say, February, beginning of February, when we have a better idea of what our 6-month actuals are.
Or mid-year, yeah.
That sounds perfect. I mean, main thing we're tracking is changes and health.
So I think we're doing
True.
pretty good.
Yes.
Overall, my impression of our financial health is good. Yeah. But so we will go in some more detail about capital projects that we don't have funding for and the next topic on the finance committee.
Other changes this year with respect to income has been the additional business. The Ocean Ciders is now operating and they're doing very well. And then also the parcels 1, 2, and 3, which has not brought in any income for a year now, is starting to bring in income for us again. So we may be on target right now for our lease payments, but we're not counting, we assumed we weren't gonna get those, so we didn't put them in. But now we're gonna be putting them back in, and we should be getting more from parcel 1, 2, and 3 than we did in previous years. So that's also an increase in income for the district.
Parcel 1, 2, and 3 is the catch.
Yes. The old Catch Joanne ice cream shop and Order at the Corner.
And when are they looking at opening? I thought it was before Christmas.
That's still the hope. They had a soft opening of sorts for the Mavericks Festival, but I understand it was all outside. They received another permit last week, so they can start rebuilding some things in there and get going. I haven't talked to them yet, but the district's hoping that they'll have one of the restaurants or have something going for the December 9th boat lighting festival.
Okay. Because I've seen that question on either Nextdoor or Facebook, and so
Yes.
so keep an eye out, but we're hoping for December 9th.
I can't say, while we're talking about finances, both commercial and the sport fishing regulations are under great duress, partly because of the whales, partly because of salmon, partly because of some rockfish restrictions. So I would just note potentially whatever you think your passenger service fees are, I'd scale them back a bit.
She should see some significant increase in activities coming this weekend with the recreational crab, but the commercial crab, as you know, has been delayed again, so. Increased activity means increased visitors, and hopefully they enjoy a glass of cider while they're here, and launch fees.
So that's the review of the budget. I'm going to go through the available funding projections. These projections are showing you the detail of the capital projects.
For anybody that watches this, what page are we shifting to?
Oh, this is just online. They'll have to click the link. This isn't part of the budget book.
This is the in-depth information that was requested for.
Thank you.
With respect to any future purchases, board did give me direction on, to negotiate for those purchases. Still in those negotiations so final dollar amounts are not finalized or agreed to and are not public at this time, because we're still working with the sellers. Once it is, we hope to bring the entire package to the board in the November board package. So today we'll have to be talked about pricing and generalities. There's an eye chart.
Try to increase the size here. All right, so this 7/1/2023 column, this is the money that the board approved prior to 7/1/2023 that was associated with a contract to a vendor that we put aside and didn't spend as of June 30th. So this is what's called the encumbrances that roll forward, that the district has earmarked as needing to be available to be spent on that particular contract.
These are committed funds.
Committed funds, yes. Mhm. The Q1 spending is how much of those committed funds that we've spent in the first quarter through September 30th. And then the remaining budget here is what's left after that first period, first quarter spending. So we have $4.3 million of committed funds currently. In 2023-24 budget, we also have a plan. They're not yet committed because we haven't issued a contract for them yet. But we plan to spend these other dollar amounts. For example, the Johnson Pier H and fuel dock replacement. We said we were going to spend $1 million to do electrical updates as part of that project, and $1.7 million for beams and piling replacement. So we can go through each of these projects? Is that something you would like to do, or is just the total?
I'm comfortable with the numbers I saw,
Okay.
and we've discussed them before, there's nothing new in there.
There's nothing new except for this land purchase and this debt. So the 8.47 million minus 2,925,000, which is the $3 million of debt, minus the interest that we would pay on 6 months.
And those
of
are
the
just
loan.
merely guesses,
Right.
estimates, given the current market rate.
Yes. And so this projected working capital, I mentioned as we were going through the budget document, there was $17.8 million. Now, the newest projection, and this is still kind of a projection because we haven't closed our June 30th, 2023 books yet. We're in the middle of doing the audit now. So this will be finalized, but with those changes from the projection of, last June to the projection today, we do have about $1.5 million to the better. And then here's the reserve that we're required to put aside. And so after everything is said and done, we would have $7 million of funds that haven't been spoken for and on June 30th, 2024. That goes down to $4.5 million if all the projections are correct, the estimates, how much our expenses are going to increase, how much our revenue is going to increase, and the differential between that. This year also takes into fact that we're going to have a election, so every other year is a little bit lower. And then the 25-26 budget, it goes back up a little bit again.
And those election expenses, just for the public, are pretty high.
Yes.
The county doesn't donate a penny to democracy.
Right, well, and when we have elections, they're big areas. There's a lot of people in those
Right.
districts when we have elections too.
Yeah, 20% of the county per seat.
Yeah. The other thing we did in this 24-25 budget is that we moved the construction for the Surfers Beach Restoration Project. In our budget book, we expected to spend it this fiscal year. In this projection, we're not going to expect to spend it till next fiscal year. So that's another reason why this bottom number is like $4.5 million as opposed.
And that's because of permitting issues and coastal issues. It's not incumbent on slowness by this district, but it's trying to get all our paperwork in order to be able to go forward with this.
That is true. The permitting is still slowing us down. We're still working on that permitting. But during the last finance committee, we talked about this project specifically and when we be spending the money. As Julie said, we had all the money in this year, but looking at the timetable and when we pay those contracts, it really is going to slide into next year's budget.
Yep.
So to get our budget this year with all the changes to stay balanced and where we wanted it to be, we moved that money to next year's budget. And so our budget is, like Julie says, we're not going to spend that money this year. It shouldn't be in our budget. We're going to spend it next year. So we do look real healthy with our budget right now because we made those adjustments.
And I just wanted the public and the minutes to reflect that
Right.
it's not a board or a staff decision to delay this. We're moving ahead as fast as we can, given all of the other players at the table.
We just updated our documents to reflect reality.
Right.
And so I guess the last column, well, so these other three columns, we are not planning on doing a lot of capital projects. You can see here, the boat lunch, restroom has $200,000 each of those years. And then, so there's not much there. We're not spending down our money that we have in the end. These are the areas that, I guess, we need to pay attention to and try to find funding for. The replacing all the piers in Pillar Point Harbor, estimated at $3.7 million. The retail center replacement, that estimate has been increased. I think we might have had funding for it at an estimate of $3 million, but now it's estimated at $12.1 million.
Just, Julie, you said 3.7 million for the top line, the Johnson Pier?
37 million.
37.
Yeah, sorry, okay.
And the reason the retail center is going up in price, even though building is expensive now, the people on, Virginia and I on the committee are going, well, if we don't get it done now, there is an opportunity now with the economy and gas prices and everything to get more people coming here if we have the space for it and if we can get the businesses established.
We have 5 years to identify that funding, or,
Right.
so.
Then $18 million for Oyster Point Marina dock replacement, and $3.6 million for a building at Oyster Point Marina. So those are the projects that we haven't identified funding for currently.
Whatever interest of the public, that $18 million was 3 to 4 million just a couple of years ago. And that's the increase in labor, parts and material, and different things. So what we budgeted long before has been drastically increased due to
Dredging.
material availability and labor.
Do you have any further questions on the projection?
Oh, thank you.
The next topic is the market analysis for the retail center. No, Jim, do you want to go through this analysis? I can share it.
As part of the retail center planning, design, engineering, requested the consultant to do a economic study on the building. So if we build it, will they come? And the bottom line is that if we do build it, based on this study, the building will be very productive for the Harbor District and the Harbor District's bottom line. So we could support the building with tenants, and those tenants, and then the lease payments we receive from them. greatly benefit us. So they're not expecting any open spaces there, or they forecast there won't be based on the size of the building in the market. So that was
the
that-
old size of the building.
it was not necessarily just a smaller building, just retail space in the harbor and in the coast side. And it's all very positive. Because when they did this study, we kind of told them two larger retails, a medium retailer, and then several smaller shops. And they took all that into consideration. And, before we build a 2.5 million or $12.5 million building, we were looking at, is it even worthwhile? And this comes out the end of the day, that is worth our effort and time to build that building and to bring it to the harbor. And the other aspect of the new building is it's part of a community for the harbor. And one thing that has taught us that valuable lessons is this last year, with parcels 1, 2, and 3 being closed for a year. The people who normally come down to the harbor to get a meal have stopped coming, and the harbor has been a ghost town. Lack of people coming in for the restaurants also means lack of people coming down to buy fish off the boats or visit our other establishments in the harbor. So as part of the community for the harbor, the public aspect of what it'll provide to us, and the lease revenue, it all makes sense that the district move forward with the construction of this building. The question is, do we put it on hold for a year or two on the design and engineering? Because it does cost several $100,000, if not close to $1 million, to do this. Or do we continue to do design and engineering and get it ready for construction in 5 years? And that's the balancing test that the board's going to have to give us direction on. Based on Surfers Beach, based on Surfers Beach restroom, the restroom at Catch Joanne's, our Harbor Master project, trying to get a permit to do anything takes years. And so I'm afraid if we do delay it, then 5 years from now, when we're ready to go, we're still going to be stuck in permits.
Yeah, we won't be.
And that's not where I want to be. I want to be able to, if we have the funding, break ground on the new establishment and move this district forward. The building's old, it's falling apart. We already have to invest in a new roof for part of the building. And I want to stop investing in that building and build a new one as soon as we can. But the economic study all comes back as positive. That's a great idea for the district to move forward with, and we'd get the benefit from it. This is the same report that we forwarded to you a couple months ago. It's just, I don't think we put it out in the public at that time. Now it's public.
Is there any pages you want to go through, Jim? No, okay.
If we move forward with, in general terms, of if the property purchase gets approved by the board, we will have $7 million left in our capital improvement budget or unobligated accounts that we are obligated into the future, but are available to spend in an emergency. And cost overruns if we run into those. And I am concerned about cost overruns on the dredging project. And we may have to dip into that $7 million to cover those cost overruns if they happen. Hopefully, we can keep them to a minimum. The restroom project on the the restroom and boat wash project for the launch ramp. We were moving forward on that with our funds, but a grant came available that we were very competitive on. So we stopped that project until we can apply for and get the grant, which we did for the design and engineering of that building. So once that gets done, then we'll look for money to actually build it, which we were very optimistic that we'll get funding from outside the district to fund that project.
But there is one member of the public, I don't know if, we wanted to ask if there's any public comment at any point in time with anything that we've said.
Who's there, wants to make a comment, they're free to.
Oh, we've changed that.
Oh, no, you're right.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we
Right.
have.
Stop doing that.
There are no hands raised. It doesn't.
Okay.
They can send a text.
They'll email beforehand and
Email.
no remote text, no.
Right.
Did at one point. So we are in a good, healthy position right now. We don't have millions and millions to give away or to waste, of course, but proper management and cost controls and selective projects, the district is very, very healthy right now. And we just recently started a new budgeting software program.
ERF or whatever, what's the number?
ERP.
No, not the ERP, it's part of the, but it's another software system where but right now Julie has to do a lot of this manually. With this new system, once we have the data in it, it automatically produces the budget based on the information we put into it as opposed to doing it manually, so.
This isn't artificial intelligence.
No.
Computer.
They do have a
Human
little, they
intelligence.
do have a little artificial intelligent report writer embedded in it, but they gave us an example of it, and I'm like, well, that might keep me from typing a couple words, but, really didn't
It's
get to
more
the,
work to edit it.
yeah.
It's much smarter than the
Well, yeah.
One thing that maybe would be helpful for this group is to present what our budget book might look like in the future to the finance committee, because there will be changes. We're going to a web-based
Oh, the new
online.
format.
Right, yeah. I don't know if you're interested in seeing that ahead of time or,
I'm going to need to study that ahead of time because I had enough trouble with the old one.
yeah, we're gonna try to keep it as similar as possible, but there will be some changes in it. And the nice thing is that we can clone it, so once we get it all set up, it just like, we give it new data and it just creates the budget book all by itself, supposedly, yeah.
We've reviewed the budget, and we've looked at our available funding projections. We've got a market analysis in this budget document. And as a reminder, a budget is a planning document, just helps us stay on track versus actuals. So right now, it's a discussion on the way ahead, development of the committee report. From what I'm hearing, I believe it was the last few statements General Manager Pruitt came out with that we're basically healthy and we've still got reserves. Commissioner Slater Carter, would you concur?
That's exactly what I heard and read, and I'm relieved because I'm congratulatory of staff and management on being able to find this land deal and work forward towards it. It's something that I have felt the Harbor District has needed for a long, long time, is the ability to meet the needs of our public and our general plan. on our mission, so, because we were getting awful squeezed there.
Yes. How does the committee want to report out on this in the November meeting? Do you want to do it just verbally? Or do you want something written up?
Well, let's put something in writing for the, if nothing else, the public and people who are reading this later will need to know that we've looked at the numbers. And all things considered, we see that the district is healthy and moving forward to a good future.
We'll put something together based on what we heard today for your consideration.
Right, and, you know, just list the documents, links that are included with that.
My recommendation is going to be, we put a cover letter on today's staff report.
Sounds perfect.
So if there's nothing else, I'd like to thank everyone for attending, thank anyone who watches this for us, and suggest we adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all the work on this.